semicolon, double slash, like that. We have to type all that. So what is the new input type? Lot of input types are available. These are all the basic input types available. So for handling different types of data, for password, for number, for date, for price range, for colors, photos, emails, all these, we have these input types. So these are the new input types. Some already there, like text and password. Now in the new version, they introduced HTML5, they introduced number, date, color, file, email, all these. So to handle different types. Now we have some important attributes. Suppose if you are using text or password, you can use like, so here, some attributes. What are the attributes? Generally attributes, all these will have ID, will have name, will have class, and an important is value. Value indicates what value you want inside them. You can keep a value. What value you want inside them. Suppose for here, password or a text box, by default you want some value. You can keep value as John. That means by default, the value inside that text box will be John. For number, you can put by default value is equal to some, because it's number 22. By default, the value will be that 22. We can put value like that everywhere. So what should be the value? You can define the value there. And you can see, so by default, that value will be defined for that. So when we save this, let's save this. And when we refresh, so when you save and refresh this, and you can see, I will refresh the page and let me save that once. And generally, when you are saving and refreshing this, whenever the page loads, by default, it comes with that value. Of course, you can change the value. By default, it comes with that particular value. So let's see. Taking some time, let's check that. Some waiting process, okay. Yeah, you can see here still. Yeah, by default, you can see when I refresh the page, by default, John and 22, that will come. You can change them. By default, you will get that value. You can change. But whenever you refresh, it comes with the default value. You can keep that by using value. You can refer by using ID, name, and classes, and this value is important, right? That is very important. You can keep by default value inside it. Instead of value, you can use placeholder. Placeholder is to just give a hint to the users. Instead of value, you can give placeholder. For example, instead of value should be used to put a standard value, but you can use, instead of value, you can put here a placeholder. Placeholder, you say name is required. That message I am showing, name is required message I am showing. This is placeholder. Placeholder means you can see that it will display like watermark text. That is not value. When you type, it will remove that value. So that is called placeholder. Value is different. Placeholder is different. Placeholder is to just give the hint or to show some warnings to the users that this is what the limit for this you can enter. So you can put a placeholder inside it. If you want, by default, you can define the value also. So by using placeholder, you can configure that. So value and placeholder. But when value is there, placeholder will not be displayed. So suppose if I give a value as John, you cannot see that placeholder because value will replace the placeholder. When value is removed, placeholder will come. The placeholder will come. That is the options like. So we can have a placeholder. Another important, when you are designing these text boxes and all, we can use attributes min length and max length and required. These are the options. Min length, max length, and required are used for restriction. So minimum 3 characters, maximum 4 characters, we can restrict that. So required means it is mandatory. You cannot leave it empty. If it is a number, instead of min length and max length, you have to use min and max. Min and max are used for number type and date type. Min length and max length is used for string type. For string type, we use those options. For example, you see now here, I want to set restriction. So name is required. Then what we can do is simply, so we can write an attribute. So here as required. You can keep that required for all of them. So for password also required. Your wish. That means without entering the name and password, if you try to submit the form, it will not allow to submit the form. So required means mandatory. They must have a value. You must enter some value inside them. Otherwise, it will not allow to submit. One by one, it will verify. You can give all required, but it will not show all at a time. One by one, it will verify. It will verify the first one. Okay, so here you can see. So when I given the required option, and once we will refresh this. So once we will refresh that, and you can see that without entering the name or password, I click on submit. Immediately it will pop up. Please fill out the field. So fill out the field. I filled the field, John. Okay. Now password is also mandatory. Next, it will show please fill out password field. When you enter all the required fields correctly, then you can submit the form. Otherwise, you cannot submit the form. So that is important. So we can use required. We can use min length and max length. Min length and max length. Now no need to ask like, can I use for date? Can I use for range? You can use for all of them. Understood? Right. Now you have another option. If it is string passwords or name like, you can use min length and max length. Suppose password I am writing. So min length is 4. And max length is some 10. That means it should be between 4 to 10 characters only. And you can observe here now, while entering, when click on, I entered the name, I entered some name, and click submit. Required is working first. Okay, I entered some value. So some value, it says that please lengthen the text. So I click submit. It says please lengthen the text to 4 characters. It says that lengthen the text to 4 characters or more. Currently you are using only 1. So I will enter, because minimum 4 I given. I give more than 10, try to type more than 10. It's not going more than 10. It stopped there. We can restrict min and maximum. So if I entered, so with 4 characters, then it can submit that. It can submit that. So that is minimum and maximum. That is min length and max length and required for string. But for numbers, you cannot use min length and max length. For numbers, what you have to do is, we have to use min. So min is 15 and max is suppose 30. It will not allow below 15 and above 30. So that means for numbers and range, we have to use min and max. For string type, so you have to use, for string type, we have to use min length and max length. Not only for number, for date also, you can use min and max. You can use min and max. That means I want to restrict the dates. I want to restrict the dates. That means I don't want user to select all dates. Then you have to enter the date. Suppose you have to define min is equal to, date must be entered in year, month, day. So 2021, month is 5, day is 14. So that means from current day, there is no other format. You must enter in year, month, day. You cannot change the format. This is standard, right? You cannot change the format. Display format you can change. Taking input format you cannot change. So max I am defining as it should allow up to 2021. So 0, 6, 10. That means from this month 14 to, so next month 10th. So it should allow up to this. So then observe carefully here. For numbers, suppose we have age. You see now, I am going down. It will not allow to go less than 15. It will not allow to go less than 15. Even if I type as 12 and try to submit that, some name, some password, try to submit that, it says greater than or equal to 15. It will not allow. So we need to define more than that. Maximum 30. It will not go more than 30. And the date also observe here. When I click here, you can see date. It is showing. It is not allowing to select other dates. Observe here. Other dates are disabled. Only these dates are selectable. In the next month also, you can see up to 10th only selectable. Others are disabled. You can even define the range for the dates. You can define the range for the dates. But you must enter in year, month, day format. Year, month, day format. You can restrict the dates. So generally, when you are defining the attributes, restriction for numbers, we use min, max. For string, we have to use max length and min length. Required can be used for all of them. For number or string or password or anything, you can use required, right? That is generally how you can define, how you can configure. So in the attributes of input, you have name, class, ID, value, placeholder, min length, min, max length, max, right? And we have required. Another attribute is you can also have size. You can have autofocus, focus. You can have read only. You can have disabled. So size, autofocus, read only, disabled are nothing but size means, suppose I want to change the width, change the width of this text box. You can put as size is equal to 4. Remember, this is only width. It doesn't mean that it will allow 4 characters. It is only width. Size will be changed. You can see the size changes. You can enter any number of characters that you have to restrict by using min length. Min length. So size is changed to 4. Default size is 20. If I give 20 size, it is the default size of text box. And you can see that the default size will be 20. You can increase like 40, then size will increase depending on what kind of value you are allowing. You can define that. So you can adjust the size. You can configure the size. Another important point is generally when we open any form, by default, I want cursor. By default, I want cursor in the first field, clicked inside the first field so that I can start typing from there. So I want focus. Any one control we can get focus. Any one control only you can get focus, not all of them. So what I can do is for text or password, we can write autofocus. Autofocus is nothing but what will happen is whenever your page is loaded, by default, password box is highlighted. That means password box is focus. You cannot give focus for all of them. If I give focus to all of them, it will work only for the first one. So the autofocus will get focus so that you can start typing from there. Generally, sometimes when after opening the form, we forget to click inside the form and start typing, and it will type somewhere else. To avoid that, we use autofocus so that automatically it will get focus to that particular control that you can define by using autofocus. Another option is read only and disabled. So generally, sometimes what we want is we don't want the value to be modified. So we will give the value, we don't want to be modified situation wise. With JavaScript, we change the situation actually. Suppose I said value is John. I don't want anybody to modify it. Then we put read only. So the name I given as username. Remember, a form can submit the value of any control only when it is having a name. So if it is not having the name, it cannot submit. The value is John, and observe carefully. And value is John. And I cannot change this now. I click inside and try to type. It is not there. It cannot be modified. But when I submit, it is submitted. When I submit, it is submitted. You fill the password and submit, then it is submitted. It is submitted, but cannot be modified. It cannot be modified. That is what actually read only. That is all read only. So that means technically, Mr. Aditya Jadhav, whatever is there in HTML, we will learn in HTML. And I will tell you every point about HTML. What is not in HTML, that you will learn in JavaScript, CSS and all. Understood? Yeah. You might have a lot of criteria, but if you wait and learn the technology, you will be get satisfied with all your conditions. Okay? How this will happen, how that will happen, how to do this, how to do that. That is why you are learning this technology. So what you have to do is you have to wait until that concept comes. Understood? Right. Okay, so some technical here. Anybody turned on the videos? You please turn off your videos. That causes a lot of problem. Okay, technically, anybody turn on your videos? Please turn off your videos. So that is causing a lot of technical issues. So next time we will block you permanently from the class if you turn on the video. Okay, na? Right, please report anybody is turning on the videos to us so that I will check them. Huh? Right, that's so much technical issues are coming, other people are complaining on that. Right, right, yes, a lot of disturbance is coming in the class, these videos. Next time they will be blocked from the class, we don't ask anything. Okay, right. So see, let's continue. Right, so what is autofocus? Autofocus will give focus. Can you give focus for all the elements? No. So it will be only for that. And what is read only? Read only will not allow to modify, but it will submit. There is another option. Instead of read only, actually we can give another option. That is, so instead of read only, we can give disabled. The purpose of disabled is nothing but disabled is looks same like read only. It looks the same like read only. You can see the value but cannot modify. But not only modifying, you cannot even submit the value also. That means we just want to show a value on screen. We don't want to allow or we don't want to modify. We don't want to allow or we don't want to modify. Then what we do is we will keep it as disabled. And when I click on submit, you can see, so it is not submitting that name. It's not submitting the name. So what is difference between read only and disabled? Both will not allow to make the changes, but read only allows to submit. Read only allows to submit. Disabled will not allow to submit. Disabled will not allow to submit. So that is disabled. You can use disabled anywhere for buttons, for text boxes, everywhere you can use these disabled properties, right? So difference between read only and disabled. Everyone understood? Yes, I will check that some technical issue is there. So due to some technical issue, right, it is hanging up. Is it okay now? It is unstable sometimes once we check that. It's okay, right? Yeah, fine. Okay. So I hope you understood all the difference between read-only and disabled, right? Read-only will not submit the value, will submit the value. Disabled will not submit the value. Okay. Another important attribute we have is list. This is interesting. List requires a data list. For example, see here. What we are doing is, I will create a separate option for that. I will create a separate option. Any alphabet, right? What is that? What is that question? Alphabet character works on number type. Yes, E will work as number type. For that you need to learn JavaScript. E in JavaScript is E is a number type. In that E number type it will allow. E number type it will allow. So E is a number type. So any character which is a number type it will allow. And E is one number type it will allow. Okay, right. Now what is the purpose of data list? The purpose of data list, how we can handle. See, suppose I am designing a form, and in this form I defined as, suppose we are typing as search, and we put a text box. Input type is equal to text, and we will keep here. So below this text box, below the text box, we are adding a data list. Usually data list is a collection of options. We have to write option. In this option, we have to write some options like HTML tutorial. I will create another option like JavaScript examples. So I am writing another option like HTML examples. And I created another option. So I created another option here. So as another option as some JavaScript tutorial like this. Now tutorial, okay. And this data list contains options. For this data list, we will keep an ID. ID for this data list, I given as ID for the data list, I given as terms. Okay, this is the ID for the data list. I want my text box to use these terms. Then we use list is equal to terms. Then what will happen is when you define list equal to terms, you can see that when we define that list equal to terms, you can see here, when I click inside this, and you see there is a list display. Not only the list, when I am typing the list, the relative suggestions it will give. I typed examples. It will give JavaScript examples, HTML examples. So we can choose it directly. So according to our typing examples, it will give that examples. I am typing like HTML, only HTML topic will come. This is not drop down actually. This is a text box only, but it shows an help. Actually, when you are typing emails and when you are typing ID, such options will come in the browser. They are not actually data list. They are history. In browsing history, if you delete the browsing history, so if you delete the browsing history, then those will be gone. Delete the browsing history, those will be gone. So currently, this is not browsing history. This is a data list. In the data list, we can display these options. In the data list, we can configure these options. So technically, data list is used for this purpose. Data list is used for this purpose. So we can attach data list with the text box so that whenever you are typing, it will give you suggestions. So that is done by using another attribute. The attribute is data list. List uses a data list. You have to write a data list for that. And that the data list will have an ID. That ID we have to use for these terms. That is generally how you can manage the input. So how we can define the input. And when you are dealing with one more option is there. The option is when you are dealing with input type as a file, input type as file. Generally, in input type file attributes, so actually it allows to upload any file, select any file, but we can restrict the files. So how we can restrict the files? We can use the type option. So we can use the type option. Type option indicates what type of file. So you can define that. That means it allows you to define the files type. So that means what type of files are allowed. We can define that. That you can do by using accept. You can give the extensions. You can give the MIME types. You can define them. For example, see, suppose we are giving, so upload, so photo. Then we have input type is equal to file. That means it will give a file upload control. So you can observe here. So a file upload control will come. But in this file upload control, you can upload any type of file. That means you see here by default. So when I click on this, all files will come. Text files, DOC files, JPG files, every type of file will come. That means you can upload any type of file. It will give all types of files. But I want only JPG or PNG like files. I don't want all of them. We can restrict that also. So for example, what you can do is here, we can define so an option called accept. Accept, you can define the MIME type, what type of the file to be uploaded. You can define the MIME type. MIME type, already we know, image/JPEG. Image/JPEG is the MIME type. So MIME type for images. It is the MIME type for images. Already I given you in the images concept how to define the MIME type. So this is the MIME type for image. You are configuring the MIME type. Now when you see here, when you are defining the MIME type, you can see it is going to filter only those types. You can add multiple also. You can just put a comma. With a comma, you can add multiple. That means you can say accept JPG, accept PNG. With a comma, you can define the multiple files. You can configure and define the multiple files. So initially, this is the file type, how you are specifying the file type. Let's see. And one more option is by default, it will allow to select only one file. You can also use multiple. Multiple allows you to select more than one file. By default, it allows you to select only one. Remember, this cannot be used for other controls. This is for only file. So you can handle that. You can see now, I click on choose files. In this list, you see there is an option custom files. The filter is given as custom files. Of course, you can give the extensions also. You can give the extensions also. You can configure the extensions. So we can define the extensions, .doc, .docx extensions. So custom files, of course, it allows all files also. When you select all files, all will come, but default filter will be there. For example, default filter means you can give the MIME type, or you can give this extension that is .jpg. So you can give the extension .jpg. That means accept only that kind of files, accept only that particular kind of files. Then it is going to accept only that specific type of files and display only those specific type of files. So that means when I click on this choose files, then it will show only JPG image. If only JPG images are there on my desktop, you can see only JPG images will come. JPG type will come. And it will allow to select more than one also. By using control key, you can select. By using shift key, you can select. So you can choose more than one. You cannot restrict the file size that you have to do with JavaScript only. Here, we can define by using the file type, how you can configure and work and define the file types. So generally, when you are dealing with the files, you have these two attributes. So one attribute is accept is an attribute. Accept is one attribute. Another important attribute is multiple. We cannot use this for everyone. So depending on the type, we have to configure that. So accept and multiple. These are the options, accept and multiple. So generally, when you are dealing with these controls, one more important pattern is there. But I will teach you pattern detailedly in JavaScript because it's a very big concept. We have to learn perfectly because we have to use this in JavaScript, jQuery. We have to use in Angular, React, everywhere. Pattern, once you know perfectly here, you can use anywhere. Anywhere you can handle that. I will take a separate session for working on these patterns. It will take some time to understand all this. We will learn that separate session. We will see. I will tell you in JavaScript or before going to JavaScript, if we learn these patterns, that's very good. I will tell you pattern is nothing but it allows you to write your own restriction. For example, suppose I said name. And here I am using a text box. Input type is equal to text. So, and name is username. And username, and we have a submit button. So this is submit. Username, I want only in uppercase letters. Anything else typed other than uppercase letters, it should not be allowed. Or sometimes you see password, 4 to 15 characters, at least one uppercase letter, like that, conditions will be there. All those conditions, we are going to build that by using pattern. All the conditions we build by using pattern. For that, we need to learn how to write the patterns. Patterns are used for building regular expression. Patterns are used for building the regular expressions. What is the regular expression? How to build regular expression? I will tell you. Actually, first basic point I'm showing here. Pattern, if I write here in the square base a-z and I say 10 characters, that means it will allow only 10 characters. If I say 4, 10 characters, it will allow 4 to 10 characters. We can write the pattern for restriction. And it is only uppercase letters. How to write these patterns, I will take a separate session. We will discuss detailedly about the pattern. And now you see here, if I am typing the name in lowercase letters we are typing and try to submit, it is unable to submit. It says that please match the pattern. We have to enter in uppercase letters and you click on submit. Only uppercase letters and click on submit, then it is submitted. Otherwise, it is not submitted. We can have restriction for handling the values and configuring the values. These patterns we need to learn detailedly, and it will take a complete session to understand and work with the patterns in various scenarios. So that we will see in next session. Tomorrow we will discuss about that. Today we will stop because some technical issue is there. I will check that. So it is hanging up in between. I will check with my system once, and tomorrow we will continue. Okay, na? Right. In tomorrow's session, we will continue with working with pattern. We will discuss detailedly about the patterns. Okay.